The president of Sri Lanka is expected to step down Wednesday. That's according to the speaker of that island country's parliament.
That's right. Thousands of protesters occupied his private residence over the weekend, vowing to stay until he leaves office. National outrage is growing as Sri Lanka struggles to supply food, fuel, and other necessities to residents. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer has more.
By Saturday, the pressure on the government was overwhelming, with tens of thousands protesting outside the presidential headquarters. And then as word spread that the president had gone, a crowd surged into Gotabaya Rajapaksa's private residence and were amazed. Whole families toured the opulence. Some tried out his private gym. Others took a dip in the presidential pool, while security services stood back and watched. The mood was festive, unlike the night before when police fired tear gas to disperse crowds who'd set fire to the house of the Prime Minister. Anger has been building over fuel shortages and a collapsed economy, thanks in part to corruption and incompetence, but also to COVID, which shut down tourism, Sri Lanka's main source of income. The protesters say they're going nowhere until they're sure the president has stepped down, supposedly on Wednesday, though there's been no word from the man himself.
Apart from the fire, the atmosphere has remained largely peaceful. And now politicians are trying to build a cross-party coalition to take power and come to grips with the economic mess.
Niha Masih joins us now for more. She's a foreign correspondent for The Washington Post. Niha, welcome. It's great to have you with us. You know, those images are just incredible, seeing those crowds inside, those government buildings. Can you give us a sense of how dire the economic situation is in Sri Lanka right now?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. In the words of the Prime Minister, who recently said that the country is bankrupt and the economy has completely collapsed, there is barely any fuel. The situation was so dire that the government shut down all schools, offices, as well as government offices. Essential services are barely functioning, and the food shortages compelled them to ask its own workers to start growing crops in their backyards. Wow. So the economic crisis has been in the making for a while, but it's really escalated in recent weeks, which has, of course, led to these unprecedented scenes that you were just broadcasting.
So, Niha, as protesters overrun the former homes of the Prime Minister and the President, do we know where they are? And the idea of not stepping down immediately, what's their calculation there?
Right. So the whereabouts of both the top leaders of the party, of the government, remains unknown. And there are obviously various rumors circulating around, but no one really knows where they are. Our sources did confirm to us that the night before the protests on Saturday, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the president, was moved out of his home in anticipation of something like this happening. The Speaker of the Parliament told in a media interview, said that the president had left the country, but later he retracted it. So it seems like both the leaders are trying to buy time in order to figure out a way out, because the public is so angry that anything can happen.
Niha, obviously for the sake of global stability, it's never great when any country's economy totally collapses. So is there anything that can be done? Are other countries looking to somehow help Sri Lanka ease some of the economic pain it's experiencing right now?
Definitely. Some of the countries, neighboring countries like India has stepped in, Australia's sent humanitarian aid, but none of that will be enough for a crisis of this scale. Economists say that what is needed is a bailout package at the moment. The IMF has been in talks with the country in recent weeks, but given now the political instability, that process is sort of stalled for the moment. So without a bailout package, a substantial bailout package, it's very hard for the country to move forward. And even with that, the government will, whichever new government comes in power, will have to implement substantive economic reforms, including cutting down on public subsidies, as well as, opening up the country to foreign investors. And there is no quick fix. So it is a long-term, problem to solve.
Wow.
Niha Masih, correspondent for The Washington Post, joining us from India. right next door to the chaos there in Sri Lanka. Niha, thank you very much.
Thank you.